Okay, Noah, curse in chapter 9. Noah comes out of the ark with all the animals, 2 by 2, 7 of the clean ones, probably 7 clean ones. Why? Because he needs to sacrifice the clean ones afterwards. By the way, did Genesis ever tell us about clean and unclean animals? No, really, when do we learn about clean and unclean animals? It's way over in Leviticus, right? Leviticus, what you guys are going over this week, is telling us clean and unclean. But apparently, did Noah know which was clean and unclean? So is it possible God communicated a whole bunch of stuff that's not been recorded for us, but that Noah knew which ones were clean and unclean? So Noah comes out of the ark, and what's the first thing he does? Okay, he basically makes this. Okay. Get the right passage here. Noah was a man of the soil, and he proceeded to plant a vineyard, and he drank some of its what? Wine. What's the problem when you've got a vineyard? What's the problem in the ancient world when you have no refrigeration? What's the problem? You better drink it quick, or is it going to turn? So question, you take it and you turn your grape juice into what? It's going to turn that way anyways, or it'll turn sour or whatever. You turn it into wine, okay? So he plants a vineyard. Now he's been on a boat for a year or something like that. He comes out, plants this vineyard. He gave it some of its wine, and he became drunk and lay uncovered inside of his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness and told his 2 brothers outside. But Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it across their shoulders. When they walked backward and covered their father's nakedness, their faces were turned the other way so they would not see their father's nakedness. Noah woke from his wine and found out what his youngest son had done to him and said, "Cursed be," and then a lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. And Noah goes off and curses. What did Ham fail to do? Pardon? Cover his dad? Okay. Now, by the way, is it a problem that a child sees, my son and I used to do Taekwondo together, okay? So when we would go in there, do I hide from my son and say, "Son, you have to leave here because I don't want you to see your father's nakedness. So your father will never shower in front of you," and things like that? Because question, is that what this is talking about? No, okay?
Was he like making fun?
Yeah, okay. So there seems to be something more than just that. Yeah, Sarah? Okay, yeah.
Because like we were talking about, he just runs off and tells his brothers about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He tells his brothers.
Yeah.
His brothers come and
So rather than covering his father like he should have, does he expose his father?
pretty much.
Yeah, and he goes off to get his brothers. Now, do his brothers do the right thing and walk backwards to cover their father's nakedness, that kind of thing? So I think you get, and this is a really hard thing in our culture. Is pride and shame a real big in certain cultures? Is pride and shame a big deal in certain cultures? And in certain cultures, you've got this thing about, is it really wrong to shame your parents? Do some cultures feel that very, very strongly? The notion of shame and honor, okay? Shame and honor. By the way, do some cultures feel that so strongly? And now I'm talking about Detroit. Do you remember that? With those 2 girls in the car in Detroit? And the father was shamed by these 2 girls. And the girls are in the car, and the girl in the back seat's on her cell phone, and her father pulls out a gun and shoots his own daughter in the car. That was in Detroit, in America. And the girl in the back seat, do you remember? She's screaming on the phone, "Dad, what are you?" And she's screaming on a 911 call and stuff that her father just shot her sister. The father then turns the gun on the back, and you hear the gun go off, and the cell phone drops silent and stuff. Did that happen in America, Detroit? Now, by the way, you guys are giving me a lot of blank stares. Do you guys not know about that? Or okay. Now, let me just say this. Did the media put that out there, or did the media cover that up? It was covered up. Why? Because it's politically incorrect to say anything about the background, the obvious background there and stuff. That this guy was so offended as a father that his girls had shamed him and he killed him. By the way, are there honor killings quite frequently in America? And question, will you ever hear about them in the media? And the answer is no. Now you got to ask yourselves, I wonder why we don't hear about this. Okay, there's some political agenda stuff there. This is called political correctness gone amok. Now question, in that culture that father was in, is shame and honor a really important idea? Do you guys remember in the tsunami that hit Japan? And do you remember some of the leaders there? They were worried that the leaders were going to commit suicide because they were shamed because they didn't know that the tsunami was going to come in there and destroy that. And so they were worried that some of the leaders in Japan were going to commit suicide because in that culture, if you are shamed by not doing something like that, that people can do some strange stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, in America, do we care about shame and honor? In our culture, really much? Are we a no-shame culture kind of thing? Okay, in other cultures, shame and honor are really, really important. And so what you have here is the shaming of the father, the exposing of the father. To be honest with you, this was several years ago. I read in Ugaritic literature. And in Ugaritic literature, this is just north of Israel, just a little bit north of Israel. In some of these Ugaritic tablets, it says that one of the duties, and it lists it out explicitly, that one of the duties of sons is to cover their father's nakedness. That is the duty of a son. Okay? The duty of the son is to cover their father's nakedness. And so it'd be like, your father gets drunk. Question, should the son drive the son drive the father home? And take care of the father, that kind of a thing, rather than exposing him and stuff. And so I think that's what you've got here, this shaming thing, this honoring thing. Yeah.
I have a question on that verse. I didn't understand why Noah cursed Canaan instead of Ham.
Okay.
And why didn't he curse Ham's other sons?
Okay. She blew my punchline, man. Okay, she's a step ahead of me here, but I was. Let me see if I can get away with it, still do it, okay? All right, how about this, okay? So Noah then wakes up, finds out what his sons did, finds out what his other son has done, and so he says then, cursed, and then he curses his son, and he says, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. Now, Ham's descendants go where? If you follow the tree, do we have the genealogies of these kids? Ham's descendants become Cush. Cush goes down into Ethiopia, and so basically Ham's descendants go down into Africa. And then Noah curses them and says, the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers. So some people have argued that this is the curse on basically Africa, that this is a curse that the lowest of slaves will he be to his brothers, that Ham's curse is that his descendants will be slaves, and this is a curse on Africa, and therefore having African slaves is the Bible tells us that this is the curse of Noah, and therefore, legitimizes that in some sense, okay? Now question, have people used that argument? That argument has been used. Now what she did was blow my punchline. And then I misread the text, but anyway, she caught me. Yeah. Yes. Hannah?
I thought that was referring to the Israelites moving to
Okay, yeah. Okay, both of them are. Let me read the text, what it actually says. Noah gets up and he says, cursed be Ham. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say cursed be Ham. He says, cursed be Canaan. Canaan's descendants, this is real hard. Canaan's descendants settle where? The land of Canaan. Where's the land of Canaan? That's the promised land. That's Israel, okay? Canaan's descendants become who? It's really tough again. When you don't know what they are, just put an ite or tite on the end, okay? Jebusite, Hittite, Girgasite, okay? So it's what? So here, it's Canaanite. So it's Canaanite. The Canaanites settled in the promised land, and so it's the land of Israel. So is this a... Woo. Oh, actually, okay, my computer's going bananas on me. You have to plug them in. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, okay. That'll do it. Sorry. So do you see the point here? So Canaan is being cursed here. It's not the descendants of Ham down into Africa. This has nothing to do with the Cushites and the Africans and the slavery there. It has everything to do with the Canaanites. Now, by the way, would the Canaanites and the Israelites butt heads? There's going to be battles later on between the Canaanites and the Israelites. And so this foreshadows that, the battle with the Canaanites, not the battle with, down into Africa and things like that. Okay, now, her other question, both of your questions, let me try to develop that a little bit, okay? Have you still got this thing? Ham is the son of Noah and exposes Noah's nakedness and things and kind of defiles, shames his father. And I think what you have here is what's called lex talionis, the law of retaliation. And we'll see this later and we'll develop it more. This is the eye for eye, tooth for tooth. As you have done to me, so it will be done to you. eye for an eye, as you have done to me, so it will be done to you. So I think what Noah does here is he says, as you, Ham, have shamed me, and you are my son has shamed me, so Ham, your son will shame you. And so what I think he's doing is saying Canaan here. Now, by the way, is this conjecture? Okay, yes, this is conjecture on my part, okay, and stuff. But you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to put that together, why the Canaan is cursed. But it seems to be this reciprocal, in other words, as you have done to me, so your son will do to you.
It just didn't make sense when I was reading it.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, if he had just cursed Ham, I mean,
Yeah.
The Bible also mentions how a curse will go from many generations.
Yeah.
All of his sons would be cursed anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Why would Ham be?
Canaan is picked out, I think, because I think that's a foreshadowing of what Israel will do. And so you get that kind of stuff already set up kind of in the scriptures and stuff. So anyways, this gets pretty complicated stuff. So where did Ham's descendants settle? We said some of them went down to Africa, but some of them were the Canaanites. Was the curse that enslaved the Africans? And the answer is no, this has nothing to do with that. Canaan is the one who was cursed here, not Cush and other Ham's descendants. Okay, so who was actually cursed? Who was actually cursed was Canaan. Okay, now this is the broader question, and this one gets difficult as well. We're dealing with a lot of cultural issues here, and some of these cultural issues are really hard, especially when we live in America. Question, do we know much about shame and honor in our culture? And the answer is no. But in other cultures, it's life and death, as we've experienced in America even lately with some of the stuff that's gone on, but then hushed up. Is it right that the children suffer for the sins of the parents? I also want to think about in terms of how does punishment happen? Does punishment, we are Americans, do we see ourselves as individuals? We see ourselves as individuals. Do you realize that in other cultures, they don't see themselves so much as individuals, but they see themselves as part of a group? That their identity is wrapped up in their family group. And that, by the way, will the Bible even then have certain family groups be judged as whole families? And so you get this idea that there's judgment falls on a whole group of people. Now, by the way, even as Americans, does this happen? Does this group thing happen even in America? Okay. For example, my son, this was about a week ago, we were discussing something like this, and he came up with this. He said, okay, suppose you guys were born in Afghanistan. Suppose you were born in Afghanistan. Now question, you're not Taliban, you're out farming your little thing. You've got 2 acres of ground, you've got a few sheep and a few goats, mostly goats, and you're poverty stricken. You got a wife, you got a couple kids and stuff, and all of a sudden you didn't do anything, and all of a sudden there's this 6'2", 200 and some pound Marine guy busting in the door of your house. And he goes through every stinking thing in your house. Now question, did you do anything to deserve that? Did you do anything to deserve it? You didn't do anything to deserve that. What did you do? The only thing that you did to deserve that was that you were an Afghani, that you were an Afghan person. Okay? Question, Taliban does bad stuff. Question, does that affect other people? Does that affect other people? Let me put it in American context, okay? You're out, don't do this, okay? You're out driving in a car, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and one of your friends has had too much to drink, and he's driving, okay? You're in the car. There's 4 kids in the car. And he's been drinking too much. Okay, question. When he gets in a wreck, better get off this, but anyways, when he gets in let me just be the sarcastic me, okay? When he gets in a wreck, who walks away? He does. Is it possible other people in the car get killed and he walks away? Does that bother me? You better believe it bothers me, because actually in one case I know the kid's name and stuff, and he's a friend of mine. What I'm trying to say to you, is it possible to be in a car? Why is this person killed? Is it just the fact that he's in a car with somebody else who crashes the car and it wasn't any of their fault at all? But you know what I'm saying? They're the ones killed and he walks away. Do you see what I'm saying? So is it possible for somebody to make a decision and it affects other people in the group? Yeah. And that's, how should I say, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And so I'm saying is the group thing affects things, and so you get this, actually the apple from the tree too. Are there things that go down in families from parents to child, oh boy, this is on tape. There's a family I know about that where there's been a marriage in the family, and the guy who married into the family is always saying of the daughter, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as he looks at the mother of the family. Now, question, is there a connection between mother and daughter? And is this guy who married into this crazy family, is he seeing the connection between the mother and the daughter? Yes, and he says that. And anyways, it's a family I'm vaguely aware of. But you know what I'm saying, a family of tree. So we better get out of there. Okay, let's get over to Abraham.